Hi friends, if you have seen my wedding leech video, here's the story time. Apologies if this isn't very good. There were a few people that were upset about the blood in my other video and that I didn't put a trigger warning on there, so sorry about that. But trigger warning now, I am going to mention blood in this video. So I live in Australia and we got married on the Gold Coast in the hinterland, and in the weeks leading up to our wedding we had a lot of rain. We also had a 3-day snap lockdown the week of the wedding, and that was really fun as well. Anyway, so obviously the wedding went ahead, and so we had our ceremony, and then we went off to have our wedding portraits taken at the venue. So during this photo session, we did have to go into some really long, sludgy grass to get some nice photos. I will put some photos in the video so that you can get an idea of the grassy areas that we went to get these photos, but this is where I think the leeches came into the picture. And yes, I said leeches. There were 3. So you probably couldn't tell that from my video, but there were 3 leeches. So there was one underneath my foot, one in like the pit of my knee, like the armpit of my knee, and there was another one just like crawling up my leg. So the really, really fat one was the one that was in like my knee pit. I'm going to keep calling it that. And it would have been there for like 3 hours. So it was there from the photo shoot, which was in the afternoon, until our first dance. So it was literally on me throughout like my whole reception. So like throughout dinner and the speeches. So anyway, we've finished dinner, speeches are done, we've done our sparkler tunnel, and now we're going out to do our first dance. And so the plan was we would do our first dance outside on the grass under the festoon lights. And then once that was finished, everyone would go back inside. So inside the barn, and we would just, dance the night away. So I think I had been dancing with my friends for maybe like 1 or 2 songs. And then all of a sudden my mother-in-law grabs me and she's like, come with me. She takes me away from the dance floor and she's walking me into like the beauty room, or the dressing room, I should say. And we get in there and I'm like, what is happening? So then we're in there and she's just lifting up my dress. And I was like, okay, what is going on? And she's like, there's blood. And I was like, no, because obviously my mind just instantly went to that I got that. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's because I was so stressed from having that lockdown before the wedding that I've gotten an early period. But then she said, it's a leech. And so semi-drunk me actually laughed at that. But she wasn't referring to the fat one that was in my video. That one had actually filled up with blood and dropped off my leg on the dance floor, which is why so much blood started to come out on my dress. And so I know what you were probably thinking before, like, how do you know that it was on you for 3 hours, or roughly 3 hours? I'm just guessing. That's because that leech was so thick. He was thick. And when they get that thick, it means that they've literally filled up. Like that leech had met its capacity, it had filled up and then dropped off. And I know what else you're probably thinking. Why didn't I feel it? Well, that's because when leeches latch onto you, they release, I'm pretty sure it's in something in their saliva, they release like a numbing agent. So basically what I think had happened was that we went and did this photo shoot in the afternoon, and at some point during the shoot, the leeches had made their way up my leg while we were going through the long sludgy grass. So I was the only one at the wedding who had this leech issue. None of my guests had any leeches on them. Literally none of the staff, like no one had a leech but me. My wedding photographer and the wedding coordinator was so good. They sponged all of the blood out of my dress on the night. When my wedding coordinator found out what had happened, she got a bucket of water and mixed it with some baking soda from the kitchen so that she could sponge all of the stains out of my dress. And then my wedding photographer was literally sitting there bandaging my leg up. Obviously, the main person that I wanted to see was my husband. So someone went and got him like straight away, and he stayed with me the whole time while this was happening, and he was really supportive. But I'll never forget the look on his face when he first came in and saw me. I think the whole thing was just so random and such a shock that it had happened. Like no one really knew how to react. But the venue staff did say that like this had never happened before. We ended up finishing off the night just dancing and like mingling with guests, and I was showing everyone my bandaged leg. I ended up putting my dress back on because all the stains were out. The whole thing just didn't really hit me until the night was over and we were back at our little honeymoon villa and we were changing my bandages over. There was just still like so much blood and it just seemed like it wasn't going to stop bleeding. But that is apparently to do with the saliva of the leech and whatever it is that they release into your body that makes you bleed so much. Anyway, so obviously everything, it turned out fine in the end. The leech wounds were really itchy in the days that followed after, but I was fine. I didn't sleep at all on my wedding night, so that was fun, but it's all good.